Welcome to Your Daily Writing Habit, episode number 961. If you are writing a book or thinking about it, or maybe you've started writing your book but you need some help getting it done, you are in the right place. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. I'm your host, Christine Whitmarsh. If you're looking for me online, look for Christine Inc., like that stuff we write with. Each day, I'm sharing with you the writing habits I've learned over my 20 years as a ghostwriter, book coach, and author. I have found that 3 things in particular have a huge impact on your success as an author, and they have the ability to turn someone who barely sees themselves as a writer into a published book author. Those 3 things are writing fundamentals, productivity, and mindset habits. Here's today's quote. "A book's never going to be perfect, but then the Romans believed perfection angered the gods." Melvyn Small. And once again, good morning, everyone. Happy Monday. For those of you who've been following for a while, you know that Monday episodes here on the show have been devoted to crowdsourcing a book idea I have that I'm calling Pandemic Stories. The idea is to create an anthology book about personal stories from this time in history. And to get caught up on the assignment so far, go back and start with August 16th, episode number 853, and then listen to subsequent Monday episodes after that. My plan is to collect these stories from those of you willing to participate and publish them as an anthology. But whether you are interested in being a part of the published final product or not, I do hope you've at least participated in the writing assignment so far, if for no other reason than to get it all out. Get it on paper, whatever you've been carrying around with you during this time. Very important to do, very therapeutic. So Mondays here on the show since August, each week I've been giving you writing prompts to help you formulate your individual pandemic story. The media is covering the big collective story, but similar to with memoirs, there are countless smaller stories. The pandemic historical events as seen through narrow lenses, personal slivers of the larger story. And that's what I've been looking for here is your sliver. Well, we are at week number 16, and we are officially done with the writing prompts, and this is really the last week of this series. And starting with last Monday's episode, the November 29th episode of Your Daily Writing Habit, I've been helping you sort through all your writing assignments and editing them into what is hopefully a compelling short story, whether for yourself or possibly to be included in the book. And by the way, the organizing and editing lessons in last Monday's episode and today's, they're not just for those of you participating in the anthology. They can really help you organize any story or book project you're working on, not just your pandemic story. So if you've been looking for some structural and editing help, keep on listening. All right, now that you've presumably sorted through and organized and structured what you wrote in response to the writing prompts, that was last week's assignment, let's talk about the self-editing process. And this is not to be confused with a professional editing process. These are the steps to take your story as far as you can as the author to polish it as much as possible before you do send it off to an editor, or in this case, to me. So here we go. I have a 5-step self-editing process. Step number 1, the non-edit. And that's right. For this first step, the key is to read without editing your actual story. Instead, use a notebook to take detailed notes about your impressions as you read and mark up areas of your story to revisit later. The goal of this step is to put yourself in your reader's shoes and look for flaws in the big picture of your story. It's difficult to stay zoomed out on the big picture if you're stopping every other line to fix typos and make small adjustments. So first, see how the car runs, and even if you like it, save that oil change for later. Step number 2, applying your notes. Now go through and address your notebook notes and marked up areas of the story from step 1, one note at a time. This is the time to complete any significant edits, rewrites, reorganization, restructuring, additions, tightening of content and wording, and cutting. Step 3, glaring errors. And with the big picture issues in your story handled at this point, it's now time to zoom in and begin your line-by-line copy edit. And this goes exactly how it sounds. You read your story line by line, scanning for blatant typos and grammatical, spelling, and punctuation errors. You just basically put your own copy editor hat on to the best of your ability. Step number 4, reading out loud. And this is, for me, Possibly the most effective step of the self-editing process, by the way, because the human brain is a fascinating thing. We can read and read and read and read through our work over and over and truly believe that we've caught all the errors, ignoring the blind spot lodged between our brain and our eyes. So why does this blind spot exist? Well, when you are the author of a work, when editing, your brain has a funny way of showing you what you think you wrote, what you hope you wrote, versus what is actually on the page. Reading your story out loud slices into that blind spot, forcing you to say the actual words on the page versus what you thought you wrote, thereby instantly spotting the errors. And I just want to point out, this happens regularly here on the podcast when I write out my scripts for the podcast and I'm reading them out loud and I realize all the different mistakes. So reading out loud, just to reinforce again, for me is the most effective part of the self-editing process, whether you are editing a pandemic story or a short story or a blog post or an entire book. Read it out loud. And finally, step number 5, end your self-edit with one more silent read, looking for anything else you might have missed in the other steps. So please drop by my Inc. Authors group on Facebook. Let me know if you're taking part in this for whatever reason. And whenever you're ready to send me your story, make sure you protect it first, either via the Writers Guild or copyright or both. And then email me at Christine@Christine-Inc.com. Christine, Christine-Inc.com. And for even more detail on my self-editing process, check out the show notes for a link to my article on this subject. Thank you for joining me here on Your Daily Writing Habit, where I am helping you write and finish writing an awesome book. And I would be so appreciative if you could follow the show wherever you happen to be listening to it and leave a review while you're there. Thank you. Until tomorrow, happy writing.